Welcome to Obscura Cases. Tonight we travel to the remote reaches of Plainfield, Wisconsin. A quiet farm, a lonely house, a man whose actions would shock a nation. This is the story of Ed Gein, known infamously as the Butcher of Plainfield. Ed Gein was born on August 27, 1906, in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. He was the younger of two sons of George and Augusta Gein. The family lived in a modest farmhouse, isolated from neighbors, in an area of dense woods and farmland. His father, George, worked sporadically as a carpenter and tanner. His mother, Augusta, a deeply religious woman who insisted that the outside world was sinful and that women were untrustworthy. In this environment, young Ed was discouraged from socializing. He idolized his mother and was taught that pleasures of the flesh were evil. He saw his older brother Henry as something of a rival, and Henry, as the firstborn, began to question the mother's strict regime. Over time, the house became a shrine for Augusta's opinions and dismissals of the world outside. When George died in 1940 of heart failure, and Henry died in a fire 4 years later, under suspicious circumstances, Ed was left alone with his mother on the farm. Her death in 1945 devastated him. From then on, he became increasingly withdrawn, hermit-like, helping at odd jobs and babysitting locally, but living in the same house, surrounded by memories of his mother's room, sealed off and undisturbed. It is within this atmosphere of fear, isolation, and rigid moral teaching that the seeds for what would follow were planted. Between 1947 and into the 1950s, Ed Gein began to visit local cemeteries at night. He claimed to have entered a daze-like state and repeatedly exhumed the graves of recently buried women he believed resembled his mother in age or features. According to police reports, he admitted to stealing from 9 graves in the Plainfield area. Inside the home he returned to, he stored stolen remains, tanned skin, skulls, bones, and fashioned objects. Investigators later reported that he made use of items like bowls carved from skulls, chairs upholstered in human hide, masks made from faces. This behavior would remain hidden until 1957. The local community noticed nothing of significance until 2 disappearances brought scrutiny. In 1954, the tavern owner Mary Hogan vanished, and then in 1957, the hardware store owner Bernice Worden failed to open her shop. Mary Hogan, aged 54, disappeared from the nearby area after being seen heading out one evening. No body was found, but later investigators linked her case to Gein's activities. Then on November 16, 1957, 58-year-old Bernice Worden did not open her hardware store in Plainfield. Her pickup remained outside, and employees noticed a trail of blood leading out the back door. Her son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Worden, found the register open, items missing, and a suspicious receipt for antifreeze that his mother had written earlier that morning. Upon receiving a tip that Ed Gein had been in the store the night before and was due to return for the antifreeze, police descended on his farmhouse. Inside the far end of the barn, they found Bernice Worden's body, decapitated, shot through the head, and hung upside down by her ankles from a rope in the rafters. The torso was mutilated. In the house attached, they found the unimaginable: shelves lined with human bones, a skull repurposed as a bowl, lampshades made of human facial skin, a belt of human nipples, a woman's suit constructed of human flesh. The scene, described by one forensic investigator as a house of horrors, shocked even hardened officers. The evidence led to Gein's arrest on November 16, 1957. Facing investigation, he confessed to the killing of Worden and claimed responsibility for the disappearance of Hogan, admitting to grave robbing of multiple corpses.
Did you work all night at that time? I should think you have.
That's right.
What would you do with the sexual part?
That was in.
One was painted, they said.
Oh, that one, when they died, I just put the paint over it. Is there anything like,
How did you start?
Like I say, might be 4 years. So there's a bunch of photographers from the newspapers want to take a picture. You want to take a picture? No, it's not yet. Till we get to statement off.
Would you enjoy it while you were doing it?
What's the worst part of it? I mean, they didn't then. I knew better, like, restless.
When you dig these graves up, you were kind of in a haze too, is that it?
That's what I could do, just how you do it.
And then one time you said you were trying to realize what you were doing and you covered her up without taking anything.
That's right.
What would you do with the sexual parts then?
They them in the box, that and then.
Then what would you do with the head?
That must have been taken from reading about these magazines and everything. Taking the flesh off like a headhunter.
Initially, doctors found Ed Gein to be mentally unfit for trial. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and institutionalized in the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. His trial was delayed until 1968 when doctors declared him competent to stand trial. He was tried for the murder of Bernice Worden, found guilty but legally insane, so he returned to institutional care rather than a prison cell. Though he confessed to multiple grave robberies and at least one other murder, prosecutors only pursued the one case. What drove Ed Gein to commit such acts? Psychologists point to his upbringing, a domineering, fearful mother who imbued him with a hatred of women and sexuality, an upbringing steeped in religious guilt and isolation. After her death, his behavior spiraled. He sought to resurrect or recreate her through the exhumation of bodies and the wearing of human skin. He said he needed a woman's suit to become his mother. His crimes changed American pop culture. He inspired iconic fictional characters like Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. But beyond films and myth, there were real victims, real grief, and a community marked by the horror of his actions. In March 1958, just months after Gein's arrest, his farmhouse was destroyed by fire under mysterious circumstances. Set to be auctioned, it burned down before anyone could view it. Today, the land is farmland again, with only memories and folklore left. Ed Gein spent the rest of his life in psychiatric hospitals and died of respiratory failure in Madison, Wisconsin on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77. While only 2 murders were legally confirmed, Bernice Worden and the disappearance of Mary Hogan, Gein remains a figure of fascination, terror, and cultural significance. His case stands at the crossroads of true crime, psychology, and horror legend. Today, when we explore the darkest corners of the human psyche, Ed Gein's case remains instructive. It reminds us that horror need not be fictional, that the boundary between reality and the nightmare can be thin. His farmhouse, his graves, his artifacts, they compel us to ask, how did one man come to commit the unthinkable? What drives someone to typography their victims into furniture or suit themselves in human flesh? For those who research him, the answers lie in a mixture of family dynamics, mental illness, isolation, and perverse obsession. The victims, both known and unknown, deserve more than a story. They deserve to be remembered. And the quiet town of Plainfield will never truly forget. Thank you for joining me in the first episode of Obscura Cases. Next time, we'll delve into a cold case that baffled detectives for decades until an unexpected twist changed everything. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss it. Until then, look deeper. The truth often lies beneath the surface.